Yesterday was International Women's Day. And I always find that day to be interesting. Now let me say this. Guys, we have a day. We do have a day. And just kind of trying to use that to debunk an International Women's Day is stupid because if that's your problem, then we do have one. And I want to say it's November 19th. I believe it's November 19th. I'm pretty confident. I know for a fact it's in November, but I think to be specific, it's in November 19th. You could fact check me on that. So one thing, I do like asking women is, how are you say there is a lack of equality. One thing that I like to ask women who do say that, I ask them, I say, okay, well, what does equal look like? How will you know when you're equal? And having that is I think it's pretty important because we have to make sure we're operating on the same, what's the word? We have to make sure we're operating on the same sphere. Because there are men who believe that things are equal. And there are men who believe that things aren't equal. There are women who believe things are equal, and there are women who believe things aren't equal. I have this viewpoint. I really don't know what equal is. Like, is equal having the same struggles? Because I don't think so. I think I'm gonna talk about this country because there is definitely inequality in the Middle East. Okay, they're second-rate citizens. Okay, I want to talk about America. Okay, I believe, here's the thing. As a man, you are going to have certain difficulties in life. As a woman, you're going to have certain difficulties in life. And I think that needs to be understood. Whatever you are, white, black, Asian, gay, everyone has their own set of circumstances. Everyone has their own set of, advantages and disadvantages. That's just how it is. So I do want to talk about that. And Greta Thunberg yesterday, one thing, let me say this about Greta. For some reason, I don't know if it's just me, but I found this to be true. That I don't really know how to word this, but it's like people portray Greta. I'd say the left portrays Greta as like this 12, 13-year-old girl. And I'm not sure why that is. Because Greta is 17. But they portray her as like this young girl. I don't know if it's her hairstyle with the two braids. But I don't know, but it's like, oh, she's so cute. And just so and it's like, y'all realize she's 17 and is about to be 18. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. That may just be me. I don't know. But I feel like they just portray her as being, like 4 or 5 years younger than she actually is. Anyway, Greta, this is from the Daily Wire. So, this is going to be, leaning to the right. The Daily Wire, that's, Jeremy Boring, Ben Shapiro, Andrew Klavan, Michael Knowles, those guys. Greta issues political Women's Day post, and James Woods responds with one single right men have over women. Okay. Radical climate activist Greta Thunberg issued a post on International Women's Day addressing sexism and so-called climate justice. Today is International Women's Day, and we recognize that women are still far from equal to men in today's societies. She wrote via Twitter on Sunday, "We cannot have climate justice without gender equity." Okay, so let me say this. I just, you know what, let me be fair, let me finish the tweet. And remember, what we women want today and every day is equality. Not congratulations or celebrations, the teen added, along with a photograph of herself. Okay, now, I will say this. Equality and equity are different words. They don't mean the same thing. And my question, if Greta was on this podcast, which one day would be pretty great if I could get someone of her, prominence on this podcast. Because I find her to be an interesting character. I do. I think a lot of what she says is wrong, and I think her climate ideas are just absolutely terrible. But I would like to actually have an opportunity to sit down and just talk with her. Maybe like for an hour, like that'd be pretty cool. But if Greta were on this podcast, I would ask her, what societies are we talking about? Because I think you have to be specific. I think that's very important. Because there are certain societies where you say, okay, no, like Greta, like no, you don't have a point. But if you get specific and you say certain countries, and it's like, okay, yeah, we can agree on that. I don't know what climate justice is. I'm not gonna try to define that because I don't know what that is. Anyway, back to the article. It's unclear which nation specifically Thunberg was referring to regarding gender inequality, or how gender equality specifically relates to so-called climate justice, or what exactly climate justice would look like. Thunberg was quickly hit with a response from vocal conservative and award-winning actor James Woods, who said women are more privileged than men in the Western world and noted that men can be drafted to die for their country. Just for the record, women on the average have more rights and government grants in America than men do, the actor posted in his first tweet responding to Thunberg. In a follow-up tweet, Woods added, "There is not one single right afforded to men in America that is denied to women, except the lovely privilege of being drafted and killed in war based solely on one's sex." Thunberg was named Time Magazine's 2019 Person of the Year, has been widely promoted by the media for her far-left activism, though the teen has claimed she's apolitical. "I'm sometimes called political," Thunberg posted in 2019, "but I've never supported any political party, politician, or ideology. I communicate the science and risks of failing to act on it," the activist added, "and the fact that politics don't exist today, neither to the right, left, nor center." Okay. But here we go. So I'm going to go back to my question that I like to ask women when they say that men aren't equal to women. And again, the question is along the lines of what would gender equality look like? What do you mean when you say that? And some of the things they talk about, equal pay, which I'm going to debunk again in a little bit. They talk about equal pay. They talk about being And I don't know what they mean by this, but they say we want. I've heard this from multiple. So that's why I'm including this, and I don't quite know what they mean. They want. Here's how they worded it. They want to be seen they want to be seen how women should be seen, but treated how men are treated. That's the way they word it. And then the last main thing that they try to talk about is, their reproductive rights. So I'm going to go ahead and do, and again, you don't need a degree in economics to debunk the gender wage gap. You don't need that. You just need basic knowledge, and you need basic understanding of how businesses work. So I'm going to go ahead and just talk about the wage gap, just a little bit. So on average, men make more than women. Okay, we all agree on. Okay. But there is the belief and misunderstanding that men just make more than women just because women are seen as inferior, or because men are just better at what they do. Okay? That's not true. Okay, again, what is a business's number one goal? To make money. They're trying to maximize their profits and minimize their losses. That's their goal. That's what they're trying to do. That's what a business is all about. If they don't do that successfully, they're going to be out of business, and they're all going to be out of jobs. So here it is. Okay, the reason men are paid more is because, one, let me say this, men are willing to travel for work. Okay, if you're willing to travel for work, you get more money. Okay, my dad works at a company in the aerospace industry, and he could have had more money if he was willing to travel. And he said, I can't afford to travel. I can't do that to my family. So if you're willing to travel, you will get paid more. Women usually aren't willing to travel for business. That's usually what men do. Women would prefer to be near their home, near their family, near their friends, and just do that. Women on average, they aren't willing to put in as many hours as men. Okay, women work, I would call them more social jobs and things like that. Okay, STEM is where the money is. And STEM it's a heavily dominated industry by men. That's where the money is. And there's not as many women there. Okay, women, most teachers are women, nurses are women, doctors are men, lawyers, men. Where the money is, that's usually where the men are. Cause see, and here's I'm gonna tie something else in. I talk about how women are graded on their beauty, their youth, and their fertility. That's what women are graded on. Men are graded on their resources. So that's one thing men do. Men are willing to work jobs where they work longer hours, but they get much higher pay and, an enviable salary to get the woman. Because we don't grade women by their job. Jerry Seinfeld has a joke in Seinfeld where he talks about, how a woman can be a meat butcher. And the guy's not going to care. He's going to be like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, you're a butcher? Oh, that's cool. So what are you doing tonight? Because men don't care about what women do as a job. If they were like, a porn star or like a stripper, then, that's different. But overall, women aren't graded on how much money they make. Men are. Okay. Women would prefer to, be able to take off early for, to go see, Sally's soccer game. They're going to go see, Devin, little Devin's, karate match. So women are willing to work less hours so they can have more time to a better schedule to just go take off work. To go support their children. And we just have to understand these concepts. Again, I'm going to say this. Let's just think about this. If you just understand basic money principles. Okay. People want to have as much money as possible, okay? I'm going to make this personal, because when you make things personal, they make a lot more sense. Okay. If you were to own a business and you had to pay person A $1 and you had to pay person B 77 cents, and they're doing the exact same amount of work, the exact same quality of work with the same background, why would you hire the guy? Why would you hire person A? You would naturally just hire person B because it saves you money. You're getting the same quality and amount of work for less money. If the gender wage gap, if it were true, men would struggle to find jobs. Because business owners would just pay women, and they would just dominate the job industry. This idea that men are just paid more just because we have penises and women are paid less just because they have vaginas, that's just ridiculous. That's entirely ridiculous. It's about, okay, what am I getting from this individual? Guys are willing to work longer hours. They're willing to travel for work. Promotions. Men are more willing to go for promotions when they don't have all the qualifications. If there's like 10 qualifications, men will go for the promotion if they have like 4 or 5 or 6. What women tend to do is women will tend to wait until they meet all the qualifications. And then they'll say, you know what, now I'll do it. When it comes to job interviews, women ask for less than men. They just do. Men are overconfident, and so we shoot higher. Women are more conservative in that area, and they say, okay, just give me this. And they easily get that. But a lot of times women don't get more because they don't ask for more. I'm dead serious. It's that simple. Now, I'm not saying whatever salary you say you're going to get. But women just have a tendency, they just don't aim higher for things like that. I think that's one thing we have to understand. Okay, so the gender wage gap, it's been debunked so many times. I just don't understand why people keep going to that. Because it's easy, it doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, if you do the math and you just think with just basic logic, the gender wage gap doesn't make any sense. There's no reason. It doesn't make any sense for a business owner to hire someone that is more expensive if they can get the same amount of work for the same quality of work for cheaper. It's all about competition. It's like, what's the cheapest way I can do it? It just doesn't make any sense. And when women use that, I'm like, do you really understand, money? Whenever, I have to be honest. When I hear that coming from a woman, I'm like, okay, stay off social media, stay off, those certain hashtags where you see, these posts about, unequal pay and stuff like that. A question that comes to my mind is like, do you really understand business? Do you really understand budgeting? Do you understand those concepts? Because if you did, you just wouldn't ask those things. Because you would understand. So, anyway, that's what I'm talking about here in America. Okay? Now, you guys want to take it to sports? Okay. Alright. Women are paid, because this is often what I find. It's like, well, what about professional sports? Women don't get the same that men do. Women don't generate the same amount of revenue as men in sports. You take an NBA game, you take a WNBA game. No one cares about the Washington Mystics. People do care about the Los Angeles Lakers. People don't care about the Los Angeles Sparks. It's just absolutely ridiculous. WNBA games, if you watch them, the arenas, it's just sad to see. Okay, the quality of basketball that you're watching is much less. It's not as entertaining. You get bored. You spend most of your time looking at your phone compared to looking at the screen. They run slower. They don't shoot as well. They pass slower. They run. Everything is just slower, and it's just not as entertaining. Dunking, they can't really dunk consistently. And when they do dunk, they barely get above the rim. Okay, you want to go to women's soccer? Okay. Now, is women's soccer cool? Absolutely. But overall, soccer in many countries, like I want to say it's Iran. I think it's Iran. But it's like women are not allowed to be in a soccer stadium. That woman will get beat and maybe even killed if she just enters. Now that right there, that's an equality. I totally agree with that. That's an equality. But soccer is just more enjoyed. Men simply generate more when it comes to soccer. If you took the last women's cup, all the games that were played, less people watched the entire tournament than the final game of the final game in the men's World Cup. I want to say it was like 1.2 billion viewers were watching the men, and just that one game. And then if you take all the viewers that viewed women, the Women's Cup, it was less than that. That's what I'm saying. It's how much revenue do you generate? And that needs to be the question. And what's really hard for me is that these are concepts that are very easy to understand. They're exceptionally easy to understand. But we just, if we're gonna, here's the thing. We have to define what we're talking about. We need a consistent definition and a specific definition of equality, because I don't know what that means. When it comes to minorities, it's like, oh, if you're black, you're always gonna, when I was coming up, my parents would always say, you have to work 2 times harder than the white guy to get the job. Which Again, if you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. But it's like, oh, blacks, Mexicans, Asians, we're all second-rate citizens compared to whites. It's not equal. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, what exactly do you mean? And I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. I don't know. I'm just, what's hard is a lot of this stuff is, I would say, kind of simple, but we still really struggle with it. Okay, I'm gonna get into, I think I'm gonna get into this story about this. It's from NBC News, and it's about this woman who begged for medical help and was told it was her fault for using drugs, the suit says. Alright, a 30-year-old woman from Vermont died of a treatable heart infection while in police custody, days after telling officers she felt chest pain and might need a hospital. Relatives of a 30-year-old mother from Vermont who died in police custody 5 months ago claim authorities ignored her desperate pleas to be taken to a hospital, consequently failing to provide her life-saving care, according to a federal lawsuit filed in Massachusetts this week. Madeline Linsenmere, I think that's how you pronounce it, was a victim of the opioid crisis, having developed substance use disorder after prescription opioids in high school, say her relatives in the lawsuit against the city of Springfield and the Hampton County Sheriff's Department. She was arrested late September 2018 by police in Springfield, Massachusetts, on a probation-related arrest warrant. A video of Madeline after her arrest, which was obtained and posted by the ACLU, shows her asking for water and telling officers she felt a chest pain and might need to go to the hospital. Instead, Madeline was booked as an inmate at the Western Massachusetts Regional Women's Correctional Center. The family alleges Madeline repeatedly told jail staff that she felt sick and needed medical attention, but was told the situation was her own fault for using drugs, the lawsuit claims. She was still in custody when she was taken to a hospital on October 4th, 2018, after staff saw she was in severe distress, which was considered a medical emergency. She died days later of a treatable heart infection at the hospital. Gonna drop down. Substance use disorder is a disease, and it is legally and morally indefensible of law enforcement agencies to deny appropriate medical care to prisoners with substance use disorder based on prejudice and stereotypes, said Elizabeth Matos, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, Executive Director of Prisoners Legal Services, in a statement. The Hampton County Sheriff's Department told the Associated Press in an email statement that it cannot comment on a specific death, but always aims to provide the best health care available to those in its custody. Carl Rose, Executive Director of the ACLU of Massachusetts, said in a statement that people in jails and prisons do not forfeit their right to adequate, timely health care just because they are behind bars, and people suffering from addiction deserve just treatment. There is no excuse for Madeline's mistreatment and subsequent death. She said police are accountable for the safety, health, and well-being of all people in custody. Let me say this. First of all, my condolences to the family. It's sad, and it's the death of a loved one. The death of a loved one is not easy. It hurts. And I'm going to say this. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know all the specifics behind this. But I will say this. Police, law enforcement is wrong here. Is it her fault for using drugs? Yes. but she needed medical attention. I can somewhat speak on this from experience. I've never been addicted to opioids. Okay? But I will say this. Having sickle cell anemia, I'm not trying to make this about me, but I'm just trying to talk about medical treatment. Okay? Me and both of my siblings have sickle cell anemia. And my brother, he's had to go to the, urgent care twice. My sister gets the most pain crises, but she usually doesn't have to be hospitalized. For me, I get them about every 3 to 4 years, but I have to be hospitalized. Let me say this, okay? There have been times, and nurses and doctors who don't really understand sickle cell. Okay, and what happens is you need to take away the pain. You need morphine or you need Toradol. Toradol is really powerful. But sometimes what can happen is, and this has happened to me, where, I go into the emergency room and I'll be told, my dad or my mom will be sitting there, usually my dad, and we'll be sitting there and they'll be like, oh, he just wants medication. He just wants, he's a drug user. Because the thing about sickle cell anemia is, I guess for any disease, you can't understand it unless you have it. And the thing is, over time, I have a high pain tolerance. And so sometimes I can say, they ask you, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain level? I have said before, there have been times where I've said 8, 9, or 10. And it's like I just don't look the part. But I'm in excruciating pain. And they'll be like, oh, well, he can't possibly be that high because he's not crying. He's just saying that so that way we can quickly get him some medication. And get him some morphine. Like he's just a drug addict. My sister has experienced the same thing. And it's like, okay, first of all, let's just be honest. It's kind of hard because when you're in pain, you become irritable. You're not as patient as you'd like to be. You can't really explain sickle cell like you would like to because you're in pain. You're trying to get comfortable. Your breathing's kind of shallow and it's just not very good. Anyway, it can be hard. And it's like, okay, let me answer this question. Do I want medication quickly? Yes, I do, because I would like to get rid of this pain. So that's that. I concede. I will concede that fact that I do want pain medication, like right now. Okay, I'm not a drug addict. Okay, I don't just come to the. Okay, the ER is not a fun place. No one wants to go to the ER. Ideally. I hate hospitals. I spent a lot of time in them. It's not fun. I don't like it. I hate it every single time. It's never fun. There is no fun part, except, I guess you could say, leaving the hospital and going home. But back to this story, man. Prisoners do have a right to medical attention. They are still human, and they still do have medical needs. And this idea of just saying, you know what, this is a you problem. That's true. That is true. But they need help at that moment. They need help. Okay, some people, and let me say this. I kind of want to tie this in. I have always had trouble. One thing I had trouble with is when it came to people who were addicted to drugs or alcohol. It was hard for me to have, there was a time where it was really hard for me to have compassion for them, because I was like, okay, I'd have that mentality of, that's your fault, and, you don't have to do that. And it's like, you can use, if you're having, issues, there are other things that you can turn to other than substances that change, the chemical, balances and all that stuff in your body. And so I had that mentality, and I said, you know what, that's really your fault. I can't feel bad for somebody who, does that to themselves. And the thing is, I've been in the hospital. I've been given opioids to help with the pain. And let me tell you something. They're powerful. They are really powerful, and they will have you just as delusional, hallucinating. They're just, it's incredible. The thing is, healthcare, a lot of people, are struggling to find good healthcare, and they have trouble affording it. And so what they do is they turn to drug dealers and say, okay, well, I can get these drugs for much cheaper from these people, and there you go. So there are these people who they can't afford medical care, and so they do other things. This woman had a drug issue for a long time. I mean, being in high school and having all those problems, that's rough. I've never taken drugs recreationally. I hate medicine. I can't stand it. I abhor medicine. So I have to say this. I can't really relate to being dependent on those substances, being dependent on medicines. This is a sad story, though, and she did deserve medical attention. Now, I will say this. Do some people fake medical emergencies? I believe so. I do believe so. But it's just, this is sad. Like it's really sad. So I'm not going to talk about the story anymore. I'm gonna go on to the next story. Okay, here's a story that's kind of funny, and I think you guys need to. I want to know what you guys think about this. Okay, I don't know if you guys have heard of ABDL, but that stands for Adult Baby Diaper Lovers. And if you aren't familiar with this idea, there are adults across the age spectrum, and what they do is they live their life at home. They're completely functional at work. There's nothing wrong with them. It's not a mental retardation or anything like that. But there are these people who they go to work and they live normally, but when they're at home, they just live as if they're a baby. They wear diapers. They sleep in cribs. They use pacifiers. It's a very interesting thing to talk about. And this is from theblaze.com, and pretty much there's a 25-year-old, in quotes, baby who's advocating for the normalization of her adult baby diaper lover's lifestyle. Let me say, I've said this before. People are strange. People have these, fetishes. They have these desires. Let me just ask this. Any of you out there that are listening to this, would any of you, if you found out your significant other did this, and this is, by the way, this is a real, if you've never heard of this, this is a real thing. This is a real thing. Would you continue dating your significant other if you found out that they did this? Or say you're on a date and the person admits it to you. Would you be with that person? Would you get with that person? Personally, I can't, I just, in no way can I see myself liking this, understanding it, or being turned on by it. I find it strange. I think it's weird. See, here's the thing. Sometimes you've heard, okay, you know, there's a general sense of normal. You know, there is a general sense of normal, which is true. But there are people out there who say there's no such thing as normal, which is just a lie. You can tell what's normal and what's not normal because of just the looks that you can get. It's like this. I use this all the time. If I walked out of my house with no clothes on, people would look at me really weirdly, and they would be, you know, they try to gouge their eyes out and be like, oh my God, they'd scream and, run their house. They'd close all the blinds and just stuff like that. But anyway, what I'm saying is there's a certain level of normal, because it's like, okay, all of us here are wearing clothes. You're not. See, it's like this. A nudist colony, if you go to a nudist colony and you are wearing clothes, you're going to be looked at funny, because it's like, okay, dude, do you know where you are? Do you know what we're doing here? There is a general sense of normal. And this right here, adults wearing diapers, the vast majority of us don't do this. Now, is it possible that I know someone who does do this? That I just don't know that they do it? I guess, yeah, I guess it is possible. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if, like, I just find it so weird. So I looked at this article. From the HuffPost, and it's called "Inside the Misunderstood of Adult Baby Diaper Lovers." Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read this article, because it talks about let's go to water. It kind of explains this world. All right, so here we go. Tykables, the only brick-and-mortar storefront in the United States dedicated to adult baby diaper lovers, or ABDL, is located in Mount Prospect, a suburb of Chicago. Now, this article it's from 2017. So I don't know if that store is still there. I don't know. Its customers, John Michael Williams, the store's owner, says, including those ABDL who have a fetish or sexual interest in dressing like or pretending to be a baby, people who have a medical need for adult diapers and enjoy the brand's options, and individuals, some of whom are on the autism spectrum, who find the diapers and child-style clothing provide a sense of comfort and stress relief. To be clear, those in the ABDL community are not interested in sexual contact with children or babies, as some people mistakenly believe, but are interested in items and activities related to behaving like or pretending to be children. What's more, some ABDL aren't interested in role-playing as a child at all, and instead find pleasure in the texture or sound or feeling of clothing and pieces associated with the community. This is just... Let me say this. I already read this once, and it was probably the hardest thing to get through because I was just like, this is just too weird. It's just too weird. Now, I will say this. There are people who need adult diapers. That's a thing. And if you need that, you need it. Hey, you know what? I get it. But then there are just some things I look at and I say, what? Like, I don't understand. I can't see myself being with a girl who, while we are at her place, she's wearing diapers, using a pacifier, sleeping in the crib. I don't know. It's too weird. It's too weird. I don't. And hey, listen. If you are one of the people in these communities and you're listening to this and you want to educate me, please do. Please reach out. You can reach me through my Instagram, my Twitter, my Facebook. You can reach out to me and explain it to me. Or if you're with someone, or if you're a person listening to this and you're with someone who's into this, explain it to me. Because I can't wrap my mind around this. I can't see myself. I cannot see Solomon Calvin Green getting with this. I just don't understand. I don't know how else to explain it. Whether you look at it from a fetish aspect or not, a lot of people feel ashamed by having sex that is not the traditional missionary man and woman, or man and man, or woman and woman perhaps style sex. This is back in the article, and it's kind of in an interview form. I find that odd. I find it strange that you can feel shame in something that makes you feel pleasure. I can't understand that mentally. Okay. First of all, that sentence, I can't really see where it's coming from, because you realize there are pedophiles. And by the way, I'm not trying to compare ABDL people to pedophiles. Just what he said, listen to what he said. Whether you look at it from a fetish aspect or not, a lot of people feel ashamed by having sex that is not the traditional traditional missionary man and woman, or man and man, or woman and woman, perhaps, style sex. First of all, missionary, that is just really vanilla. That's just me. Anyway, I find that odd. I find it strange that you can feel shame in something that makes you feel pleasure. Here's the pedophile thing. You know, there are pedophiles who get turned on by children. There are pedophiles who actually do things to children, and they find pleasure. Here's the thing. We can't normalize everything. I'm not saying this is a crime, but there are certain things where we collectively, we're just going to say, no, that's too weird. It's like this, the trans movement, the gender movement of not knowing what gender you are and just being confused. That's not normal. Now, there's a difference between accepting it and normalizing it, I would say. Because there are people who say, okay, you know what, those people exist, they're doing their thing. But it's like, okay, we understand biology, people understand that they are a man or a woman. Now, you may want to be something else, but we understand that you're not. I just find that I can't understand this. Here's a question from the article. Tell me more about the distinction between those who are interested in adult baby diapers for a sexual or fetish reason and those who are into them for other reasons. Here's the answer. From a fetish or sexual standpoint, it's pretty self-explanatory. They are aroused sexually either through role play or from the product itself, the sound, texture, or feeling. Or, for some people, there's a humiliation aspect. It could be any one of those things or something else I haven't mentioned. It's really an individual thing. This is just strange. It's just strange, and I don't know what else to make of it. I don't really know. How can anybody feel I can't look at someone and want to have sex with them if they're wearing a diaper? It's that simple. I can't look at a person get turned on when they're using a pacifier, or they're wearing a diaper, or they're saying goo goo gaga, or they're playing with the rattle. I don't see that. I can't explain it to me. Explain that to me. What is the opposite of arousal? Like say I'm in a neutral state. Say I'm in a non-aroused state. What would be the opposite of being aroused? That's what I would feel. I don't know. Look, if you are knowledgeable in this area and you are into this stuff, or you know someone who is into this stuff and you understand it, please reach out to me. Please reach out to me. Okay, I want to get to this last story. This is a beautiful story. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but let me tell you something. I can attest to this. God is a healer. He is able, whatever you have, he's able to heal. There's a 4-year-old girl she got the flu and lost her eyesight. And after, she now, you know, here we go. An Iowa girl who lost her vision after almost dying from the flu has regained her eyesight, her mother said. Just weeks after leaving the hospital in January because following her recovery from the flu, family members noticed that Jade DeLucia, 4, suddenly was walking by herself to the bathroom without touching the walls. Testing it, family members asked her where her uncle was. Jade walked right to him. Man, I don't need to go any further, man. There have been so many times where I've been healed. I can think of this last time where I was in the hospital. I was supposed to be on dialysis for like 6 months. When I got out of the hospital, I was supposed to be on dialysis till like June or July. My last week of dialysis was in late January. And I got the catheter removed on my 21st birthday, February 11th. When I got out of the hospital, I was ready to I was expecting 2020 to not be a good year for me. Because I was like, man, dialysis is not fun. It's annoying. It's a new diet. You got to look at all the, ingredients and stuff like that. Not anymore. I don't, first of all, to come off dialysis is rare. That itself is already rare. I met so many doctors in just December. I met more doctors in the month of December 2019 than I met ever in life. I was meeting doctors that I didn't even know it was what they did was a thing. But I'm telling you, God is a healer. Like I could write a book on all the time. My sister, I'm going to share her testimony for a little bit. My sister is going to be 25 in June. First of all, every time my mom got pregnant, they told my mom to abort us. They said your child is not going, for my sister, they said she's not going to walk. If she does walk, she's not going to walk. She's going to hit 1 year old and she's never going to walk again. She's always going to be in pain. She won't be self-reliant. All of those things. My sister is about to be 25. She does praise dance. She drives. She works. She went to school. Let me just say something about the medical establishment. Let me say this. God works. He works through the hands of men sometimes. He does. Doctors are amazing, okay? They go to school, they learn a lot, but I'm going to say this, they don't know everything. They don't. There are some things that they have no clue. You'll hear about those cases where, people will go to many different doctors and they'll be like, we don't know what's wrong with you. We don't know what you have. That's how good and mighty God is. I've seen people with stage 4 cancer healed. I've seen limbs grow back. I've seen tumors shrink in front of my face. Let me say this. There are Christians out there who believe that miracles don't happen today. And let me tell you something. You're wrong. You are dead wrong. You're as wrong can be. And this is to the Christians out there. Okay. Jesus said, Jesus told his disciples, and what he told his disciples applies to us. You shall do greater works than these. There have been times, Jesus, he raised people from the dead. He spoke a word and people were healed. That's what it was. That still happens today. That is a real thing. And for you, for Christians, let me say this. If you don't believe that, you really don't know who God is. I would say that you really don't understand who Jesus is, and you don't understand, you're failing to understand the Bible, I would say. Those still happen today. He's still in the miracle working business. I mean, I don't know that. Here's the thing, when I hear it from non-believers, I get it, because it's like, okay, first of all, you don't believe, that is understandable. But this is to Christians, man. Those who declare themselves Christians. It frustrates me when you talk about miracles don't happen today. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Oh my God. I don't want to go on a rant. But he still does that. I have a cousin. She doesn't believe that God is a healer. Her words were, he just doesn't do that anymore. We're in a different time. I don't know what to say. But with what I have seen and what I have experienced myself, you can't tell me healing still doesn't happen. You can't tell me that. That's it.